You got a track called Out on a Limb that has a very pop structure. The verses remind me of Steve Miller Band, and the choruses remind me of Tom Petty. This is the one where you brought your green vocalists in again, Gina, Jenny, Ellis.
That's right.
They're used more subtly, but they're definitely present. Lyrically, it's about romantic risk-taking, putting yourself on the line, taking a chance on love. Is the Shake It Baby line meant to be a shout-out to Babylon Sisters?
No, it wasn't. I don't know. I remember when I came up with that, I think it was just sort of there was room in the phrase for some kind of background vocal response, and it's it's almost like I hear it more like even like she loves you, yeah, 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 that kind of thing, almost there's just something about the repetition of the words, and I don't know where. I mean, there might be a more particular example of that or influence that it is, but I wasn't thinking of Babylon Sisters, although subliminally I suppose I could be forgiven for doing that.
Yeah, you hear it quite often in your subconscious. It's so ironic that you mentioned She Loves You, yeah, 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 because I have an anecdote written about it. On your song Mind Over Matter, there's some interesting wordplay. You put the word don't in front of the components of that familiar phrase, so you got I don't mind, it don't matter. And the aesthetics of contractions and slang are so important in lyrics. You can't say I do not mind, it does not matter.
Right.
In the song it has to be don't mind, don't matter. And that makes me think of that famous case where Paul McCartney and John Lennon sang their new song to Paul's father. And when Paul's dad heard the line, she loves you, yeah, 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 he said, can you make it she loves you, yes, yes, yes? Of course you can't.
You can't.
He was of that generation. He was tired of American slang.
I never even thought of that don't is grammatically incorrect the second time around. But no, the song needed it, of course. It wouldn't fly without parallel sounds there and syllables there.
Of course, and that's how people talk. We don't speak like English majors.
Well, I'm probably a little less slang oriented than a lot of people when I talk, but somehow the singing, that when you're in that character and it's when you're in that whole world, it just different things just. I mean, I do try to go for what sounds natural in the context of the song and the singer and the whole vibe of the music. So, yeah, I didn't think about that. Although, that's that whole song came about after we discovered a Mark Twain quote when he said something about aging. He said, aging is a question of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. So that was the inspiration for the song, and it really sounds like it was a great idea for a song, but it couldn't have survived with doesn't. So we had
no. It reminds me of the seafood diet. I see food and I eat it. The Mark Twain, the Steve Martin of his day. Well, there are a lot of country allusions on the album, but the most overtly and dare I say most sincerely country track is "Can I Get a Volunteer?" I'm not detecting any little winks in Jim Beard's Floyd Kramer-esque piano playing, and certainly not in Gordon Tidcomb's pedal steel work. It all feels very respectful. Which one is the volunteer state? It's Tennessee, right?
I didn't know.
Yeah, I think it's the volunteer state.
Is
the Lady Vols, yeah. Yeah,
I didn't know that. It's perfect. All right.
Yeah, so pitch this one, and the guy to get some green to bank in Tennessee and see what happens. You know what they say, man, Tennessee, and there's 10 of believing. So lyrically, the song is about a lonely guy who acknowledges that he's no great catch, but he still feels inclined to reach out for some companionship. It sounds like a good premise for a country song.
He's a little blind, but yeah, he can't figure out why he doesn't deserve a little something too.
Well, I got to believe every male and female has an equivalent of themselves across. If you're the I don't want to be stereotypical, but if you're the toothless Walmart shopper, chances are there's someone in the opposite sex or the same sex, if that's your thing. We're not all rock stars. Let's face it. But yeah, I was trying to think. Well, there's as I mentioned at the top, there's funk, pop, novelty. And you had country touches on many tracks, but I thought, this just sounds like a good old country song.
Yeah, when we came up with this, we did come up with the title first. I remember that. It was I think I had the title, Can I Get a Volunteer? And I think we had written a bunch of tunes on the record already. And we realized we didn't have a tune. We didn't really have a ballad, and it really seemed to be crying out for the lyric that we were beginning to work on was really kind of crying out for this kind of George Jones kind of country style track, and so we let it go there. And then when the whole tune was done, we it felt right to just sort of dress it up the way those old country tunes typically did, and I was amazed at I thought I might have to be spoon feeding Jim through that tune because I didn't really have any clue that he knew that style, but he says, "Oh no, I got this," and and he absolutely nailed it.
He owned it.
The funniest moment of that whole track is a little subtle, but maybe not so. There's one verse where he's playing some fills, in response to the vocal, and there's something. The lyric is something like he admits he doesn't really have all that much to say. The singer admits he doesn't have much to say, and then Jim's fill is like, bing, one note,
right?
Instead of a more elaborate phrase, he just gets the one note.
That's another theme throughout the album is the supporting music commenting on the lyrics.
I thought it was, and he did that all by himself. I mean, he was obviously listening to the lyric when he played, and I didn't tell him to do that. He just went, boom.
Well, everybody listening to this, there's a good recording tip. Don't have your backing band play to an instrumental track. At least have a guide vocal on there. Let him respond to it. When Elliot Randall was on the show, he said that, because he's always playing on things in various states of completion.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
And he always says, well, can you at least give me the gist of the lyrics, but,
right.
I hadn't thought about it, but can I get a volunteer kind of reminds me of can I get a witness, And also I want to comment, is that the pedal steel, is that the only guitar playing on the whole album that isn't you?
Yeah, I think it is. I don't play pedal steel, and I wouldn't know what to do with one. It's a daunting instrument, to say the least. And I mean, Jeff Baxter could do it, but I never spent any time with it. And it's gorgeous, and I'm sure it's a world you got to sort of inhabit for a while before you can make sense of it. It's a wild thing. Gordon is he's a veteran. He's the guy to call in New York for that kind of thing. And do it.
You mentioned Jim Beard nailing the piano. Clearly, another asset is that pedal steel. So let's listen to it from Adult Entertainment. Here's Can I Get a Volunteer?
Please don't disappoint me, dear. Won't you be my volunteer? I guess this place is quite a dump, but it feels like home to me. I get my water from that pump. It ain't too clean, but it's free. Yes, my lawn is overgrown. My hungry dog don't seem to mind. Guess I'm used to being alone, though I don't take to it too kind. Can I get a volunteer? I could really use a hand, someone who will understand. Things are not as they appear. Someone to wipe away to look beneath the skin, to forgive the shape I'm in. Can I get a volunteer? My conversations can fall flat, though I'm pretty good with a cliche. And though I'd really like to chat, in fact, I don't have much to say. But please don't judge this book, I pray, by the cover that you see. maybe you could find a way to spend some time with me. Can I get a volunteer? I could really use a hand, someone who will understand things are not as they appear, someone to wipe away the tear and to look beneath the skin, to forgive the shape I'm in. Can I get a volunteer? To watch a good ball game, but my TV's on the blink. And if to you it's all the same, I think I'll fix myself a drink. I may not be a classy guy, but I've got knees like any Joe. I can't help but wonder why girls don't stay, they always go. Can I get a volunteer? I could really use a hand, someone who will understand things are not as they appear, someone to wipe away the tear and to look beneath the skin, to forgive the shape I'm in. Can I get a volunteer? Please don't disappoint me, dear. Won't you be my volunteer?
Well, I know a lot of this material was co-written and co-produced. You know, the way I handle co-writing situations is when people want to know who wrote what, I always just tell them that the really good parts and the hooks, you know, were my contribution, and all the weaker stuff that doesn't really work and could have been better, that was written by the other guy. So even though it's the Jon Herington band, you know, technically, how great a role did Dennis play in the creation and evolution of the album? It sounds like, you know, he really was the spark.
He really was. I mean, I don't think this record would have happened without him. It certainly wouldn't sound anything like it does without him. It was his, you know, call on the phone, said, "Hey, you got any time this week to get together? I got an idea for a song." I mean, it began like that. I mean, and we had good luck, as we often do, and we just sort of kept at it, you know, about once a week or every 2 weeks or so for several months, and we would come up with something while we were together, but then we'd take it home, and each of us would sort of work to improve it, and we'd send versions of the lyrics back and forth, and then we'd rework the music sometimes. But so in the very conceptual part of it, he was absolutely like a total partner, and we did an awful lot of arranging in advance as well, for, you know, coming up with parts and ideas, and we rehearsed a bit with the trio before we recorded. And then he was also very involved in the overdub phase, when we were deciding what kind of parts to add, what kind of parts to keep, what the tracks needed, and so yeah, he was a real co-producer the whole way through, and it wouldn't have happened without him, and certainly wouldn't have wouldn't sound like this. And it was easiest record I've ever made, and the most fun to make, especially in the writing phase, because this was we had no real agenda. I had no need to do another record in a hurry or anything. We were still sort of playing to try to sell time on my hands, and so it was it was very natural and really a lot of fun. We had a ball.
Nice. Well, we can't let Frank have all the fun, so let's hear from Dennis.
So I remember when we began discussing making another record. It was about 2.5 years ago after a gig one night. Johnny came up to me and out of nowhere, in his best Marlon Brando Don Corleone voice, says, "Dennis, I have an offer you can't refuse." I replied, "Yes, Don Johnny, how may I be of service?" He said, "We're going to make a pop album. Straight ahead hook, line, and sinker pop songs, just like the ones we loved growing up in New Jersey." Of course, I jumped at the opportunity. We recorded 11 out of the 12 songs together. It didn't take too long. It was a lot of fun and entertaining. And the other song, Broken in Blue, Johnny had written about, 20-something years ago. And it seemed to fit in perfectly with everything we had just done. So it made the cut. And I really love this record. And I'm 100% sure it's going to sell well under 1 million.
Well, you got to love a guy who's realistic. Well, this is what I'm saying. You mentioned it earlier. You have a musical and personal shorthand with these guys that you can't recreate. In fact, you mentioned, when you work with Steely Dan, it was a little different when you did Two Against Nature compared to, let's say, Sunken Condos. Now you had all that history with Donald Fagen too. Clearly humor is a natural element, as we've heard, between the three of your personalities. So they're not only bringing great playing and great writing and great ideas, but I imagine there's a lot of laughter. And when someone name checks a song like Dennis just did, I can't help feeling obligated to play it. So what's the story behind Broken in Blue?
Yeah, Broken in Blue, it was a sleeper. I mean, it was lying around. I think I might have written it in 90 or 91, a long time ago. And there was no, I didn't write it for any reason. I remember I was driving in the car and it just occurred to me. And the thing was almost written before my little drive was through. I remember the inspiration for it was a sort of country song. It was a Neil Young song. Actually, not a Neil Young song. It's a Don Gibson song done by Neil Young. Which one is it? What's it called?
Well, Don Gibson, Lonesome Me.
Lonesome Me, yeah.
I can't believe I got that right. What do I win?
It's beautiful. Yeah. You win a copy of Adult Entertainment.
Let me see. I feel a little cheated as I hold it up to the camera. I've got that, but no. Honestly, that's the only Don Gibson
song. So I remember
song.
that tune, and Don Gibson's a great writer, and but I particularly love that track of Neil Young's of that tune, and I'm sure that was the inspiration. But it sat around, and I don't know, didn't make it onto another record because it just didn't. I don't know, it just didn't feel like it was right for it. And then when we were done writing these tunes, we had 11, and I thought we needed another, and I think it was probably because there was so much of that Americana country thing that was clearly going to be a part of this record, both with Volunteer in the most obvious way, and Crazy Good, and even No Way, No How, Not Me leans that way a little. So it all felt like, all of a sudden that tune just felt like, oh, okay. It just felt like it would fit. And I'd always liked the song, but didn't really just find an opportunity to put it on a record till now. And so that completed the 12, and I'm glad we did it because it was really fun to play on. It might be some of the more sort of normal kind of approach to guitar playing I do on the record, but in a way it's one of my favorite.
Well, look at it this way
too. So
compared to the other tracks, which are babies, this is the adult on the album.
Yeah, that's true.
Adult entertainment. It's many years old, so it's mature compared to the other children on the album.
And it's a more earnest song. It
fits in nicely. If you wouldn't have singled that out, I wouldn't have known it was written in a different era.
Yeah.
But as I recall the Don Gibson recording, I haven't heard the Neil Young. I'll check that out. But you have like a 3/4 waltz tempo. You know, he had the 4/4. You know, is that a question of as you're driving, that's just the rhythm you're feeling, or
I think Lonesome Me was in 3, wasn't it?
3/4, 1, 2, 3, 4, da 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 da.
Oh,
I'm
no,
pretty sure it's 4.
that's the Don Gibson version. Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
but Neil Young did it in 3, which was so.
Well, now we have the answer. That's the part I didn't know.
But and that's I mean, we don't do much in 3, but so it felt like it might be a useful thing to add to the bunch as well, you know.
Oh yeah, is your tremolo guitar meant to be an imitation of a B3 Leslie?
Oh, let's see. No, not really. It was supposed to be tremolo guitar. I like tremolo guitar, and it just seemed like it would work for the bridge. I think it's on the bridge there.
And we keep bringing them up, but you know the melody to me is very McCartney-esque in the way it travels.
Oh yeah, there's a Beatley thing about that, isn't it?
Yeah,
Especially the middle. Yeah.
Because it travels from your normal voice up through the falsetto in a single phrase.
Yeah, it definitely has a little "She's Leaving Home" influence in there too. You know.
Yeah.
About that too.
Well, that's what's so cool because you know I know obviously some of these bands we've mentioned, the Rolling Stones, the Who, and everything. I didn't know Neil Young did a version of that Don Gibson song, and it's one of my favorite country songs. Period.
It's a good song.
So it's an education for us all. But so basically, this was a sole writing credit for you, and everything else on the album was co-written with Dennis. Is that right?
Exactly, that's true. Yeah.
So it's so sort of flattering that the one song he name checked was the one he really had no part in.
Yeah, it's very nice of him.
Yeah. Well, let's check this out. I really like this one, "Broken and Blue."
Everyone's out on the town for the night except me. Since you put me down, I'm the fool that you meant me to be. How did you know I would be so naive? I believed. Oh, what can I do? Oh, I'm so broken and blue over you. We hit all the right places, saw all the right faces to see. But I know now, behind all the smiles, they were laughing at me. Your little joke finally broke me down. I'm your